Hey everyone, I just want to take a few minutes and show you kind of what different things Awaken PoE Trade can do and how you can use it to kind of make money. Before we start though, if you have any other suggestions for kind of quick tutorial type videos that you want to see, let me know. I want to try and get in the habit of doing one every day or two at least. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is just install it and start it up. And I will put the download link down below, but this is what you're looking for. Just grab the installer. It's very simple. So once you've got it open, you'll have to go to your system tray at the bottom right and right click it and then change your league to whatever. So if you're playing on ultimatum, check ultimatum. If you're doing standard, do standard. Pretty simple there. After you do that, you'll go to settings and this is what will pop up. All right, so the main three settings we'll be using on this is the two price checks. So one is auto hide, one is not. And then the third is item info. These other things are kind of, I mean, they're neat, but they're not really going to be used all that much. Whereas, you know, the price check, you'll use that all the time. And then the item info is especially important if you like bulk roll maps. It's kind of easy to check them real quick. So make sure those are bound to something that you can just hit real quick when you need to. So we'll go through and I'll show you kind of what all of those three do now. So let's start with the price checking portion of the macro. So again, there is the auto hide and the non-auto hide, and I'll just call the non-auto hide static because it's easier to say. So with these macros, the auto hide version of it is what you'll be using most of the time because people just want to know at a glance what something's worth. So, you know, let's say this axe here, it's worth 1 chaos. And the cool thing is with these prophecy items, you can actually see at the top what the prophecy is called to upgrade them, and then how much the upgraded version is worth. So let's say the upgraded version was worth 30 chaos, but the base and the prophecy were 2. It'd make more sense to just do the prophecy as opposed to buy them. But so that's what the auto hide is for, is just quick at a glance, because when you pull off the item, it disappears. Now with the static price checker, what you can actually then do is start adjusting and ticking these stats to see what it's actually worth. So if you have like a really well rolled, which this is not, this is like terrible. Let's do a different one. So like, let's say you had a really, really well rolled carcass jack. So the base ones are worth 2 chaos. They're nothing. They're super common. But let's say you had a near perfect one. You can drag these bars up to where the rolls are. And then when you search, it will apply those filters. And so you can see if you had a really well rolled one, it's actually worth some money. And so you can actually hit this little trade button and it will pop up all the other ones that are up. So, you know, if let's say there were none with exact stats to yours, you can kind of tweak the rolls, like drop them down a little bit or open the trade and kind of see, hey, what is mine compared to this one? Because if you have one that's got less rolls than say this one, you know, no one's going to buy yours if it's listed for higher. So that's the difference between the two price checkers, is just one's for quick at a glance. One is for if you want to do specific rolls and stuff. So what's also cool with this price check macro is it will show you ratios. So you can see here that 120, so my whole regal stock is worth 44 chaos. So if you are, let's say, trying to buy something, or you're short on currency, but you've got, you know, gumball stuff like this where you've got a ton of one, you can just see real quick what it's worth. You know, with Exalt, it's really easy too. You can see they're worth 152 chaos. So you don't have to guess. You know, if you're trying to buy one, you know exactly how much you're going to get. So really, really simple stuff, but really, really helpful, especially if you're kind of unsure what things are worth and what's good and what's not. So the other thing is with rares. Now, this could be a whole video on itself, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But if you ever have a rare that you can't figure out what the price is, this macro will help you so much. So if we pull up that static price check, you can see it'll pop up all the stats. So if you're looking at, say, a ring or something with resist, typically you just want to do this pseudo of the all resist, because not everyone needs the specific element rolls. So it's just easier to go off the sum. Now what I do is usually I do about within 10% of everything. So let's do 80. Life, we'll do 50. Fizz, we'll do 8. So when I'm price checking stuff like this, I start small. So you can see if we search, it's about 1 to 3 chaos. Now let's do the int roll. We search again. Now it's 5. So the mistake newer players make when they're learning how to trade is then they'll go like this and they'll be like, oh, it's worth 10 to 40 chaos. But really, this mana roll means nothing, and the energy shield is really kind of nothing too. So you want to start with things like life, resist, and then flat to physical or elements on jewelry and stuff like that. Start small and see what it's worth. If they're really high rolls, you'll still get money. But what you want to avoid is ticking everything, listing it for 40 chaos, and then a week later it's still sitting in your stash. I know people are afraid of being ripped off all the time, but let's say this ring was worth 40 chaos. If we sold it for 10 or 15 right now, that's 10 or 15 we have that we can then put into gear and upgrade and start getting to higher maps and making more money. Whereas if it's sat in your stash for a week and then you sold it, it kind of isn't worth it. The other thing you can do is you could list it high, and then every few hours it doesn't sell, just drop it down like 5 or 10 chaos. That's what I did a lot when I started trading. Was I would price check it with the macro, and then every day it didn't sell, I would drop it down by, if it was like 100 chaos, I would drop it to 90 or 85, and I would just keep dropping it down until it sold, because it's not worth anything unless someone actually buys it. So having a whole stash tab full of stuff that isn't selling is not doing you any favors. Just as a quick tip here, if you're kind of unsure what to do with harvest chaos rolls, my suggestion would just be get a bunch of cluster jewels and roll those. So if you're doing large ones, make sure they're 8 passive and at least like 68 item level. And then medium can be either 4 or 5 passives. It really doesn't matter. Smalls I wouldn't recommend because you can just chaos roll those. But the really nice thing with this macro is you can price check while you're in the harvest and see if it's worth keeping. So, like let's say I just rolled this one, and when you are rolling these, just match the damage type with whatever the harvest is. So if it's a fire one, use a fire cluster jewel. If it's an attack one, use an attack cluster jewel. And then basically all you do is pull up that static price check macro, and then you check what small passives it has, or what skills it has, and then you hit search, and boom, you have a price right there. So this is really, really nice if you're unsure what to do with harvest, because I know a lot of people just feel lost in there, and you get so many of those specific chaos rerolls that it's kind of hard not to make money with it. When I was doing the Slayer build, I think I made 7 or 8 exalts just re-rolling cluster jewels while I was loving that character. So super easy way to make money. And with this macro, it's just, you don't even have to think. So lastly, we'll go over the map hotkey real quick. And this one's really cool. I really like the way he's got it set up. So basically all you have to do is hover over a map and hit your hotkey, and it'll pop up this menu. And then with these affixes, you can click until it's the option you want. So let's say you're playing a pure physical build, you could do that because you don't have to worry about it, or you just don't click it at all and it won't show up. But if it's, this is an elemental build, so I literally cannot do it. So I've got that checked. So then, if you had half an inventory maps, you just hit your hotkey on every single one, it pops up. If you see those red markers, you have to re-roll. So it's an efficiency thing. It really kind of keeps you out of your hideout and gets you back into mapping quicker, which is more money, more experience, which is what you want. You don't want to be sitting in your hideout all the time. So I think it's underused a little bit. I don't see very many people using it, but it'll save you time in the long run. So it's really good to have. But other than that, I mean, those are kind of the main things I wanted to hit with this video are the price checking and the map rolling. There's some other stuff in the macro. You can mess around with it if you want, but they're not really, you know, like the delve grid macro is good if you want to find the fractured walls, but that's, I don't know. Don't worry about that one, but it's there if you want it. So thank you guys. I got nothing else, so I'll see you in the next one.